Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at a horror comic, and that is the Ice Cream Man Sunday edition. Now if you're new here and you end up liking the overview, please consider subscribing. And now, without further ado, let's take a look at the book. This book is very sleekly designed. As you can see, there's no dust jacket. Instead, we get the text and image slightly raised on the cover, and it feels very nice to the touch. And of course, the images of our titular Ice Cream Man holding a creepy crawly. Here's the spine of the book, very square. It's sewn binding, by the way, and well put together through and through. And then we've got a lot of negative space on the back cover, but that puts some nice emphasis on our creepy image here. This one isn't raised like the front of the book images, but it is glossy. So this book collects the first 12 issues of the Ice Cream Man series, which is a horror anthology comic published by Image. And absolutely do not sleep on this book. If you're a big fan of horror, I think you will love it, even if you're somebody who's not that into horror, but is a huge fan of really creative and really innovative writing, then this is going to be extremely enjoyable for you. I think this series is very unique and very different from anything we get in the horror genre, but if I had to sort of draw a comparison, I would say it is akin to Twilight Zone and maybe a little bit of Tales from the Crypt, but this is really beautifully and specifically created to be a comic book, and so they take full account of the medium and use it in very, very satisfying and different ways. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, so just to backtrack, it is a horror anthology, but there is somewhat of a through line and there is some connective tissue between the stories, and that is because the Ice Cream Man shows up in every single issue, and sometimes he takes a more passive role with narration a la Rod Serling, and sometimes he actually is inserted into the story and takes an active role, but it's also sort of implied that every single bad thing happening here is happening because this character is making it happen. He's inflicting terror upon this town. This is existential horror at its finest with a splash of suburban in it, which makes it really, really fun. There's also a bit more to this otherworldly being and another being, and it's slowly being unraveled in the story, which is a nice kind of dessert to the main course of the story that each issue chooses to be about. And there's some really disturbing imagery in here, there's some disturbing ideas in here, but there's also some poignant things in here, and there's also some funny stuff in here. So it's kind of an emotional feast of a comic, and we rarely see that done as well as it's done here. I mean, the first time I encountered this series was I just picked up an issue off the comic rack. I thought it looked interesting at my comic store, and it was this story about two drug addicts, and it brought a tear to my eye. It was really, really emotionally impactful, and I thought, wow, this comic book made me feel so much with just one issue. And so I checked out the rest of it, and it's all really, really good. They're not all tearjerkers, but they've all got their messages and really well-crafted characters and emotional beats and fun beats, and they're just entertaining. I really want to compliment the artwork too, and the panel layout, and just everything that goes into designing a comic book, because they do such a fabulous job that there's even an issue that is in Spanish for a lot of it that, you might not be a fluent Spanish speaker. I'm not a fluent Spanish speaker. I know a little bit, but I was still able to follow the issue very well. I was able to be invested in the issue and the characters, and that's just because of the amazing work that they put into the storytelling in all aspects of storytelling. So there's a lot of insects in here, there's some body horror, but really at its core, the true horror of the story is kind of just the pitfalls of being a human and dealing with things like isolation and the fear of oblivion and the fear of your own insignificance or meaninglessness. And like I said, the structure of the book just really emphasizes all of that, and I think it's something we can all relate to, even the more positive ones among us, because these are just things that humans deal with, but when you put a spotlight on it and you abstract it a little bit, you get something great like this book. And so I've read every single issue collected in here before, but when I got this in the mail yesterday, I instantly reread it, and I'm already done reading it. It's that good. Just when you start, you can't put it down, and the anthology nature of it lends itself to that binge reading, because you finish an issue and you're like, wow, that was so great, I want to read the next one. It's a fully contained story, it'll be quick. And before you know it, you're finished with the book, it's nighttime, it's time to go to bed and marinate in those horror thoughts and have some good nightmares. Another benefit benefit of this being an anthology series is that there's really something for everybody. There's something that will fit your taste in one of these issues, I guarantee it. But I think even the ones that I personally didn't feel particularly drawn to were still really interesting. Like, for example, there is one in here that is focused on music and a former one-hit wonder and what he's doing now, and a lot of it plays with music concepts and it plays with a lot of references to famous songs, and I'm just not a big music person, not a big person who knows a lot of bands and whatnot, so I think I missed out a lot of the key details, but overall I still really enjoyed the story, which is a credit to the creative team. I also want to mention that this book is built really nicely. It's been a long time since I got to hold a book that wasn't one of Marvel's recent omnibuses, and now I'm really starting to tell the difference because the paper quality here is so much better. It makes a huge difference, and I feel generally like I'm not somebody who cares about that so much, but it actually is a really nice luxury to have that. And since we pay so much for these books and invest so much time in them, there are deluxe editions, so it makes sense that we get deluxe quality products. I know there's a lot of distribution and printing problems all over the place. Even this book got delayed so many times, but Marvel should really figure out what they did here to get this great paper, or how much they paid for it, because it's a big difference, like I said. I think this series has gone from sort of underground to more popular, so I think we definitely will, but I hope we see a volume 2 of this. It absolutely deserves it, and as a little bit of a tease, in the next volume they would collect issue 13 and 14, which are 2 issues that I found just absolutely fascinating. The issue 13 is a palindrome issue basically, so that means you can read it forward and you can read it back and it makes sense, and then the issue 14 is just this awesome play on crosswords that's really fun and hard to explain and articulate, but you just gotta read it. But this series is just littered with fun concepts like that all over the place. There's a really cool one about a guy who gets sucked into the television and has to go through the channels in here. Another issue in here that I really liked is about a man jumping off a building, and it's sort of the monologue that he's going through as he does that, as he's actually falling. And there's just a lot of really brilliant symbolism in there. And I'm very serious when I say that there really is something for everybody in here. I mean, look right now, we're flipping through this and there's a sci-fi horror story in here. So we went all the way from suburban to sci-fi, so that's a big leap. There's a lot of experimentation, and not a lot of books get to take a risk like that. But this one does, because if it doesn't work in one issue, then hey, move on to the next. We've got a lot of goodies in the back of the book here as well. We've got a lot of variant covers and artwork, character designs, and even script stuff. So if you've read this before, please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Otherwise, let me know if you're planning on picking it up, because I really think you should. But that's it for this video, so please like and subscribe, and you all have a great rest of your day.